Welcome into the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel and the Verizon Postgame Show with the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Washington Commanders 29-18 and getting not only the victory, getting not only their 10th victory of the season, but also becoming the first team in 21 years to lock up back-to-back NFC East Division championships. We got Seth Joyner here, of course. We got Derek Gunn. Bailey Livesey will be along with us just a little bit. We're also going to hear from Nick Serriani as well as Jaylen Herz after this victory. Seth, I'll start with you on this. When it comes to a division championship, is that just a box to check, or is that a confidence builder going forward?
Well, you would hope it would be both, but what it did is secured their place in the playoffs as the division winner. So that's the most important thing. I think that's why you always hear coaches talk about, we want to dominate and win our division, and then from there we play for seeding. But yeah, it's a big deal. It should be a confidence builder that they won their division in back-to-back years. We'll see where they go from this point forward.
Now, we've seen a lot of divisional championships over the years here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Gunner, certainly Andy Reid's time here saw a lot of those. Nick Sirianni now does it again in back-to-back years at that. What do you think this does for the locker room going forward?
It's a confidence builder. It's good for the locker room morale. This is just the first step of what they want to accomplish. Obviously, you want to get the division. Secondly, you want to try to get that top seeding, and that's still within the realm of reality. You want to go deep into the playoffs, and you want to try to get back to the Super Bowl and try to see if you can make it back-to-back championships. When you think about all the obstacles this team has overcome this season, both on and off the field, and here they sit at 10-5, and they have clinched their division with 2 games left to play, and are still potentially playing for that number 1 seed. It says a lot about the confidence and the character of this locker room, and you throw in the injuries they've had along the way to make up those deficits as well. And then you look at the schedule they've played this year as well. You take all of that into consideration, and here they are on the doorsteps of the playoffs again. So it says a lot about. So kudos to them for battling through all kinds of adversity to get to where they are right now.
And let's acknowledge one of the players, of course, that had a big part in why they won today. That's actually going to be our Mid-Penn Bank player to bank on today, and that was Saquon Barkley, who did have a huge run in this one for the Eagles to help put this game on ice. He had 21 carries for 132 yards with a touchdown, also breaking out that 48-yard run there in the fourth quarter to again put this victory on ice for the Eagles. And he also, in a year of great turmoil and offensive linemen not knowing their place, unfortunately, on that offensive line, missing blocks, seeing him get hit time and time again behind the line of scrimmage, unlike we saw last year, Saquon Barkley still manages to go over 1,000 yards this year.
It's amazing, to be honest with you, because the way this offensive line is played this year, it's really a monumental achievement that Saquon got to where he got to. We've been hearing all year long about Saquon's lost a step and Saquon this. Saquon hasn't lost a step. Saquon is still the same old Saquon. He's got to get the ball and be able to get to the second level of the defense he's got to get past the line of scrimmage. Like, there are too many inside zone runs where he's getting hit by defensive tackles because offensive linemen aren't holding their blocks long enough for him to get to the edge. Even on the 48-yard run, he had to evade a defensive tackle right there in his face in order to get to the outside and get down the sideline for the touchdown. So congrats to him for, doing the improbable, getting to 1,000 yards. But Saquon still is that dude. I don't care what anybody says. Tank Bigsby has some big runs in this game. I believe that he's a good change of pace for the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. But your home run hitter clearly is still Saquon Barkley if they can just give him a chance to get started where he's not getting hit in the backfield as soon as he gets his hands on the ball.
All right, let me ask you this question about this game, though, gentlemen. Gunnar, I'll ask you this first. Coming off the win, 31-0 against the Raiders. Going into this game, you were winning in blowout fashion there for a minute until that final drive there by the Commanders. Did this game at least give you more confidence or change anything really about where your level of confidence is going up against the Bills next weekend?
That's a good question and a tough question to answer. First and foremost, the bottom line is they got the all-important W. Secondly, a lot of times bottom dwellers will make you play down to their level. It's a division game. Washington came into this game with multiple injuries, banged up. Eagles didn't look as efficient early on as they did last Monday night last week against the Raiders. So I still don't know if I'm where I am, where I think we need to be with this offense. I mean, until Saquon busted that big run for 48 yards, I mean, the running game was okay, but still, he's getting hit too many times in the backfield. And this was a very porous run Washington defense, you know. You look at the total yards they had against Washington. The yards look nice, 300-something yards against them. But I don't know. You know what? It's a better question to ask after they play Buffalo, because both teams have a lot on the line next week. Mm-hmm. When we get to that Buffalo game, I can give you a definitive answer. But I'm still in a question mode right now.
You're still in question mode.
Yeah.
That to me answers the question.
Yeah.
That is no. Yeah. That is an emphatic no.
Yeah.
It does not. It is not. In terms of beating Buffalo next week, this isn't a game that you look at and go, oh yeah, they totally got that game. Totally. Yeah. How do you feel after a win like this? Does it build your confidence about how they could face the Bills next week?
No. Because even though they did what they needed to do to get the win, and that's first and foremost the most important thing, is to get the W, it's how they got it and how they had to struggle against a team that, you know, I feel like they should have dominated, like they dominated the Raiders last week. Just going to the half, they're down by 3 points. Jake Elliott misses, you know, on record it says 2 field goals, but in actuality he missed 3 field goals. Right there at the end of the half. You know, you lose Nakobe Dean, and I told you guys when we came into the second half, I said get ready for the Washington Commanders to crank up the run game with Dean out of the game, and they did just that. You know, it wasn't until, you know, you got the break, the Cooper DeJean interception, that things begin to turn in their favor. And I get it. The game of football is a war of attrition. You know, you're dealing with things across the board. You're dealing with injuries. You're dealing with players who are playing for pride on the other side, no matter what their record is. But at the end of the day, they didn't really impose their will until later in the game. In my opinion, you know, they could have dominated this game from the beginning. I still have issue with the offensive line play. It's just not where it needs to be on a consistent basis. And I guess if there's one thing that makes me hesitant about declaring that these Eagles are ready to take off is their level of consistency. They just don't play good football on a consistent basis for 60 minutes. You know, they play in spurts here and there. You know, in the entire first half, I don't think they converted a third down in the entire, you know, first half. You can't play a half of football and not convert a third down. That just makes no sense to me. This team is too talented. And then they came out, Mark, with this spread formation, empty backfield, and they were just moving the ball 13, 14 yards a clip. And at periods in time during the game, you didn't see them line up in it anymore. I'm like, if something's working, that's what I don't understand about this coaching staff and the way that they call plays. If something is working, why would you deviate away from it to the point where you just don't do it at all? You know, especially in situations where you need a first down. Okay, you run the ball on first down too often, in my opinion. First down, in my opinion, is a good down to go play action pass because you have a history and you have a tendency to run the ball on 1st and 10 almost all the time. Okay, so you run it on first down, you get 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So if you need to get 4 or 5 yards on second down, go back to that spread formation. Because Jaylen was working, he was cooking in that formation. And you go away from it and you get back to some of the other things that you're in and you struggle and you go 3 and out, 3 and out. It just doesn't make any sense to me. There's no rhyme or reason to the play call and what they call. You know, you're up, the game is seemingly over. You run it on first down, and then you throw 2 incomplete passes to Saquon Barkley in the flat. Jaylen's under pressure. He underthrows, you know, 2 passes. Then you got to punt the ball right back. Why are you not just running the ball 3 straight times? Outside zone, inside zone, you know, read option. Just run the football, keep the clock moving, you know. But I just don't understand the methodology. And then the real head scratch is, why in the world would you ever go for a 2-point play? Now, I know, okay, you might want to be working on some things that you might need down the road, but that's not the position to do that. because you know that the players on the other side are going to take it personally. You convert the 2-point conversion, you get your guard kicked out of the game. What's the ramifications for him being able to play next week? Is it just a one game? Is he just kicked out? Or is there some kind of suspension that goes along with that? I'm not sure what those rules are. But you put your team in that situation by the decision making that you make. It made no sense to me whatsoever.
There's one half of the thought process that says, well, if you don't want them to get the 2-point conversion, then stop them. But on the other hand, there's a certain football etiquette, that's involved here to a certain degree. And I think we were all shocked that they went for 2. And, maybe like you said, they're trying to work on something. But, as we saw, things escalated after the 2-point conversion. I thought at that point that was the most entertaining thing in the game.
Yeah, but
to be honest.
But D-Gun, you didn't run anything that was was exotic.
No.
You just turned around and handed the ball off, and Saquon ran the ball in the end zone.
Exactly.
So that's a play that you already have in your repertoire. If it was something that you were doing that was different, that you wanted to take a look at to give other teams, something to think about and to worry about, then I could understand it. But the play that they ran made no sense whatsoever, other than to just, wrangle the mains of your opponent, cause them to get into a fight and get your starting guard kicked out of the game.
All right, let me ask you like this as a former player. You're on the short end of the ledger like Washington was in a game like this. You've been beat up and battered all season long. You've lost teammates left and right. You look to your left, decimated. Look to your right, decimated. And the team comes in here that's a better team than you. They're up by a comfortable lead. They line up for a 2-point conversion. What's your mindset? Instead of just taking the extra point and getting the butts off the field, what's your mindset?
As a defensive player?
As a defensive player.
Oh, as a defensive player, I'm trying to hurt somebody.
I knew you were going to say it. I had to get you to say it. I'm sorry.
As a defensive player, and Seth Joyner,
as a defensive,
by the way.
As a defensive player, you're adding injury to insult. So guess what? I'm going to give you the injury.
Mm-hmm. All right, fair enough. Well,
while you try to insult me, I'm going to give you the injury.
So that's what I wanted to hear.
So here's what I think some people might be battling with after the game, because I agree with you. This isn't exactly a game. We had an ask going into this game, a request, if you will. Like, hey, make us feel better about taking on the Bills next week and helping your seeding as it goes on here, and now the final 2 games of the season with the Bills and then the Commanders again. So you go through it. Where's the optimism lie? Well, obviously you locked up the division. You're back-to-back division champions. Certainly not nothing, but for the reigning Super Bowl champion, you got bigger fish to fry. But also you factor in the idea that you had Will Shipley turn over the ball in the opening kickoff. So in essence, you give the ball to the Commanders both times leading off each half. Not a great thing. But still, the Eagles were able to get a double-digit win on the road in the division. The other part of it is Jake Elliott. To go to your point again, Gunnar, by the book, he missed 2 field goals, but we all know who watched the game. He missed 3, including 2 that came back-to-back. 1 from 57. They hitched up a little bit, and then they missed from 52. What is even going on there? And this is the second season in a row now. People forget last year. In a year that was incredible, Jake Elliott was not incredible. He ended up wising up in the playoffs, only missed 1 field goal, but also, I believe, 3 extra points in the postseason last year. And you see him miss 3 field goals all the exact same way also. And they're able to come back no matter the turnover there early, no matter the missed field goals, they're still able, for the most part, to own this victory today. Now, the other side of that is Josh Johnson played in this game. And just until, who, by the way, for those who haven't been following closely Josh Johnson's career over the 17 years, a former XFLer, as well as a former Alliance League, I believe he was as well. He was the guy finishing up the game for the Commanders. So I'll just ask this, and forget about Buffalo. Just in terms of confidence booster for the Eagles in general, what can you take away from this kind of victory today?
Well, the defense played well. They gave up, less than 200 yards of offense. They made plays when they had to, got a turnover when they needed one. I think this defense is ready in terms of getting ready for the second season. I think we have a problem with Jake Elliott, big problem. I mean, he's missed 7 field goals since week 7, plus an extra point. This was a guy that wasn't that long ago was Mr. Automatic when it came to field goals. And now all of a sudden, he technically missed 3 in this particular game. When you're looking at 50 55-yard field goals in today's NFL, those are like 30-yard chip shots now when you look at the kickers around the league, the way they're kicking 50, 60-yard field goals nowadays. So, Nick Serriani and the coaching staff, they have to take a look at this, seriously. I mean, at this stage of the season, you're not bringing another kicker in.
No.
You're going with what got you to the dance this far. But Jake just needs to go back and do a little soul searching, work on his technique a little bit and see what's wrong. He's still a very good kicker, and even good kickers have off moments, and he's had some off moments this year.
I'll tell you this, I'm not as worried about Jake Elliott because when it's a big kick, he's never missed a big kick that I can recall. In big games and big moments when they need him to come through, he comes through. The bigger question that I have for you two guys is, why the hell they keep putting Shipley back there to return kicks? Because, it's one thing that he fumbled the ball. It's another thing, he returns kicks like he's uninterested in returning kicks, okay? And they make a point because kickers can place the ball right or left, center. They can kick it wherever they want to kick it. So wherever they put Shipley, they make sure to kick it to him. And he comes jogging up there like he's not sure whether if the guy don't want to return him, if he's not going to run full speed, put somebody else back there that's willing to do it, because that's just nonsensical. The opening play of the game, he comes tippy-toeing up there, gets jacked up, stripped right there, and now all of a sudden the defense is on the field before the Eagles can even take the field offensively. I don't understand, why do you continue to put non-productive players in critical positions when it's apparent, okay, that they can't or won't do it? It's no different than Gibson fielding that punt and then fumbling it against the Chargers, okay? They turned around and they fired him. I get it. Shipley may be in their long-term plans. But if he can't do that, then don't put him in that position. Jahan Dotson can return kicks. You got enough players on this roster. You can put Darius Cooper back there. There's so many other options that you have that you can put back there rather than putting a guy back there that really don't want to do it. And by his effort, shows you that he doesn't want that job.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby couldn't do it. Gibson couldn't do it. Shipley can't do it. You're at a point where you're running out of options now. I mean, maybe the players that you just mentioned are not back there because the coaches have tried them in practice and they can't do it. And you don't want your frontline players back there.
You don't really know if a guy can't do it. I promise you, if you can't tell me that Jahan Dotson, who returned punts, can't return kicks, and you can't tell me he ain't doing nothing else. Got 2 catches today for less than 20 yards, okay? And then you got Darius Cooper, who's been up for I don't know how many weeks. You mean to tell me that you can't even try somebody else?
Well, then I have to ask the question, then why haven't they used them, considering it's obvious us on the outside looking in have seen the difficulties they've had.
They turn around and they put him right back out there.
Yeah.
They put him right back out there after that, and wherever he is, they kick the ball to him. Here he comes tippy-toeing again up to the 22-yard line. Then he feels one and not sure whether he wants to take a knee, gets his weight moving forward, he's got to bring it out, boom. They're right there at the 20 again.
Well, it doesn't make any sense. And this is one of the, let's not try to crack the code here. This is just dumb. It's negligence is what it is. You mean to tell me you've had Covey on your team all season and you've trotted out guys like Tank Bigsby, who you traded for. It took you a minute to even get him away from the position of kick returner. You actually start giving him the football. Xavier Gibson comes in here. John Mechie was in here for a minute trying to do this. Yeah. All the while, Britton Covey is still here trying to return the football, and now you're just giving him an opportunity to do it. But then today, as you pointed out during the game many times, Seth, they are targeting Will Shipley. They don't want to kick the football to Britton Covey on this particular instance, in this particular game, because they know he's a better returner.
You know you bad. When you bad when they don't want to kick it to Shipley. I mean
I rest my case. In other words, I rest my case. So it just doesn't make any sense. Now back as far as the rest of the game goes here, something else that is very obvious. When Dallas Goedert is involved in the game plan, the offense seems to work a lot better. So we're looking for a 7-week stretch that Dallas Goedert was playing in the earlier part of the season. He had 7 touchdowns. Then there was about a 5-game layoff where he barely saw the football. And then most recently, you see him start to get involved in the game plan again. Chargers, Raiders. And then the entire first half today, not targeted. The only 2 targeted receivers in the first half were your 2 1-2 or 1-1A wide receivers in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Nobody else, not even a check down to Saquon Barkley or anything like that. Then in the second half, we see Dallas Goedert start to get involved, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but obviously came up with a clutch 3rd and goal from the 15 touchdown reception with the fingertips from a throw from Jaylen Herz for that go-ahead touchdown, and they never lost the lead after that. Why does it take so long to get Dallas Goedert involved?
So I'll say this, and it's not really even directed at Dallas. There were 29 passes in this game. 20 of them were directed towards A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. 12 of them to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown had 11 targets in the first half, I believe. You're not operating in an efficient manner when that many targets goes to one player. Now listen, he had a good day, 9 catches, 95 yards. That's not the point. The point is any offense works more efficiently when you're spreading the ball around. Like last week, Jaylen hit 7 different receivers. And I get it. Dallas led the team in receiving last week with 7 catches or 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. I understand that. But when you begin to spread the ball around to everybody, now you create a scenario where everybody's got to be alert for all the receivers that are out in the route. But when your intent is to force the ball and give the ball to one player all the time, that focus begins to go to that one player, and then coaches are going to try to start to scheme. It's efficiency that you're after, because if you get Dallas Goedert involved, if you get Jahan Dotson some balls early, if you get Devontae some balls early, without so many targets going to AJ, then when you want to go to AJ and you need to get to AJ, you can get him anytime you want him. But this offense gets bogged down at times because it seems to me there's such and even Nick Serriani has said it. Hey, listen, our passing game is going to run through A.J. Brown first, Devontae Smith second, Dallas Goedert third. That's fine. But sometimes, you have to alter your plan. You can't come out and force the ball to one player all the time when you got other players that are running routes. If you're going to make him your primary every single time, me as a defensive coordinator, I'm going to start coming up with ways to begin to take him away. You minimize that when you spread the ball around, and your offense is more diverse and has a chance to succeed more often when you're looking to distribute the ball to every receiver on the field. It just doesn't make any sense to me, D-Gun.
Maybe it was deliberate in the first half. Maybe they basically took what the defense was giving them. We wondered why Goedert wasn't in the offense. Maybe they were taking Goedert away. It's hard to see unless you're in a stadium seeing the whole view in a lot of cases. And then all of a sudden they come out in the second half, boom, they open it up. They hit Dotson, they hit Goedert. So maybe that was a deliberate part of the game plan based on who they were playing, the personnel they were playing. And let's face it, man, the DBs were playing from the field to the parking lot off of AJ for that first half of the game. It was pitch and catch up and down the field.
Yeah, you might absolutely be right, but it's very rare that we'll look at even a box score after a game or after a first half and see 2 guys targeted.
Right.
2.
Right.
Yeah, seems odd.
Well, I know.
All right, maybe we'll get some answers. Maybe we'll get some answers from Nick Sirianni when we hear from him a little bit later. Maybe Jaylen Herz. All that and more when we return, but when we do come back, we'll hear from Barely Livesy, our social media correspondent, who's been checking the chat as well as social media. We'll break it all down when we return. This right here, Set Joiner Show YouTube channel with the Verizon postgame show.
For an elf, the holidays are stressful, but Verizon's got a bonkers deal on the new Samsung Galaxy S25. Get Gemini, when's our next train coming?
Right now.
Ah, nutcrackers. Gemini, where am I?
You're in a blender.
Okay. Time for elf care. Gemini, find me a massage, please. Oh, that was fast.
Get Samsung Galaxy S25 with Gemini and Watch and Tap, all for $0. No trade-in needed on any plan.
There's a number on the screen.
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 There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
White Dog Cafe Haverford is your Sunday football headquarters. Catch the Birds games while enjoying the best wings on the main line. Feeding a crowd? Our to-go catering platters are loaded with our signature wings, perfect for game day. White Dog Cafe Haverford, the main line's game day destination.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. You've heard what we've had to say about the game, our immediate reactions. Now we want to hear from you. Bailey Livesey standing by right now, monitoring the chat, social media as well to break it all down. Bailey, what are the good people talking about?
Well, Mark, I'm sure you can guess one of the trending topics online tonight, and that is Jake Elliott. With Jake Elliott missing multiple field goals in this game, many people are questioning if it is time to move on from him. What does accountability look like for a kicker after a performance like this?
Similar conversation that we had last year. Unfortunately, it was earlier in the year last year that we were talking about struggles of Jake Elliott. Now we're talking about really, in essence, and it's not just the box score, it's the way we watch the game. 3 field goals, 57, 52, 43 yards that he missed. These are normally money kicks for Jake Elliott. It's almost really the further he gets away, the more money he is. This obviously not a case this year. Last year they stuck with him throughout the struggles. He did well for this team in the postseason, only missed 1 field goal, missed 3-point afters, which is really odd. But I do not see them, gentlemen, in Week 16 making any kind of change to the kicking game.
No. Nobody's worried about Jake Elliott. I mean, listen, when the chips are down and he needs to make a kick, he normally comes through at flying colors. It just may be an off day for him. Seems like, he couldn't get the wind right, aiming down the middle, and it kept pushing it to the left, or he was hooking it to the left. But I personally, D-Gun, I'm not worried about Jake Elliott.
No, he's been a sure kicker for this team for a long time. And, like you alluded to, Mark, he had some problems in 2024, yet they stuck with him and brought him back. And as we talked about a few moments ago, he's missed seven field goals now since Week 7 plus an extra point. Sometimes with kickers, it's like hitters in baseball. I mean, you go through slumps. And right now he's going up, through a slump. He's been inconsistent, no question about it. But, it's not a confidence thing with him. For him, it's a technical thing in terms of planting the foot, angles of the kick, so on and so forth. So I'm like Seth. I'm not worried about Jake Elliott right now.
Mm-hmm. Neither am I. Well, Bailey, that might be the quickest turnaround to a question and answer we've had all season. We finally did it. Look at
that.
There you go, right? Record time. What else are the people talking about?
Well, there is a lot I'm seeing online about the O-line struggles. This far into the season, are these issues something that can realistically be fixed now, or is it going to have to be more of a priority in the offseason?
Nope.
Go ahead, Seth, just jump right in.
I just, when you watch them play, it's like they just take turns making mistakes. Jordan Mailata has been a dominant force in this league for quite some time. This year, he has been anything but that. I watch guys that, he has 100 pounds over, literally push him into Jaylen Hertz's, pocket, all game long. At some point in time, you've got to sit down, and anchor against guys that are going to just, bull rush you, and it's happening week after week after week. I saw him on a pull play. He runs across the formation. Bobby Wagner's sitting right there for a kick-out block. Bobby gives him a little head fake, and he runs by him. Bobby makes the tackle, for a 1-yard gain. It's just they take turns. Landon Dickerson not staying on blocks. Tyler Steen not finishing blocks, trying to block people with his hands instead of putting his body on them and just trying to move them out of the way. Just simple things like, okay, if you know the ball is supposed to go inside you, all you got to do is turn and shield the guy inside. You don't have to do a whole lot. Just shield him. But they get out of position, the guy falls back inside and makes the tackle. It's just little things like that that just like leaves you perplexed at times. And at this point in time, I don't know what the remedy is. You know, these kinds of problems aren't problems that you fix in season. These are things that you get ironed out through OTAs, through training camp, you know, through the preseason, if you will. But right now, this is the offensive line that they have, and teams are going to look at the weaknesses that they possess, and they're going to target how do we game plan, being able to take advantage of certain spots. Now, understand me. When Lane comes back, that's a whole different thing, because Lane is a dog. Lane's going to require the guys get the job done. He's going to be whispering in Tyler Steen's ear, you know, just trying to motivate him to play with a little more urgency, with a little more aggression. But across the board, that has to happen. And I get it. Landon Dickerson's been beat up. Cam Jurgens, you know, probably ain't close to 100%. You know, but if you're out there, the expectation is that you can get the job done. Those injuries are not an excuse when you're on the field. If you're hurt, you got to play through being hurt. If you're injured, then you need to go sit down and let them put somebody in that can play at full tilt.
The inconsistency with this offensive line this entire season has been one of the most perplexing things about this team. Basically, it's the same personnel. Look at the guys they had as Pro Bowlers last year. And they had some guys that injured briefly last year as well. But they still, no matter who they put in that offensive line, was a part of a mechanism that was just mauling people at the line of scrimmage, you know, which allowed Saquon to run for, you know, 2,000 yards, and they were, you know, #1 rushing offense in the National Football League. And, you know, Jeff Stoutland is still one of the best offensive line coaches in the National Football League, if not the best offensive line coach in the National Football League. But for some reason, everything from tackle to tackle has been off this year. You know, Steen has been off. Jordan Mailata has been way off. You know, Lane Johnson has been that dominant guy on the right side, but he's also part of that five-man mechanism that supposedly tries to make that running game go. And it just hasn't happened for some reason. Now, we know teams are bowing up. You know, we knew that coming in. We talked about that the first show. Teams are going to bow up and stack the line of scrimmage against this Eagles running game and try to take away. And a lot of teams had a lot of success with it. When you think about this, Saquon surpassed the 1,000-yard mark today, but today was only the third time this season he had a 100-yard rushing game the entire year. And you think about how many he had in 2024 when he bust 2,000. You know, so at this point, I don't think you can really improve what you have. You're just going to have to keep going with what you have. You can't change the personnel. You hopefully Lane Johnson will be back sooner rather than later to solidify the right side of that offensive line. But in terms of man for man across the board, this offensive line is what it is for the rest of the season.
I mean, you know, if you're Jeff Stoutland, you got to be frustrated to some level with the level of play that he's seen, because a lot of the reasons why they get beat is because, you know, they're out of position. It's a technique and it's a fundamental thing, like stepping the wrong way, the right way, and making sure that you get your hand placement the right way, like the holding penalty on Fred Johnson today. You got a nice play. As a matter of fact, you got a touchdown that gets called back because he's holding the guy. Well, you know the guy is trying to rush around the end. He dips and try to get underneath you. Just lay on him, you know. Either lay on him or push him up the field. But you get your hands around him, you literally turn, you grab him, and you throw him on the ground. What do you think is going to happen if you do that? They're going to throw the flag. But guess what? The penalty was caused because his fundamentals were off. You got a guy that's smaller than you are, and you're trying to jump set him. Why are you trying to? You jump set really good pass rushers because you want to give them something different to think about every once in a while.
Right.
Against guys that you know you can dominate, there's no need of jump setting. You just kick and step and tell the guy to come on and then beat him up from there. I just don't understand it sometimes. I really don't.
Well, I agree with you guys that this is not getting fixed anytime soon. This is something we've talked about time and time again. And if you're someone that loves to go by the numbers, well, like I always say, numbers never lie, but they sure as hell can deceive, and they're very deceitful as far as the offensive line numbers this year, especially when you look at the passing game. Jaylen Herz has almost more time than anybody to throw, but that includes him scrambling out of the pocket. But as far as the run game goes, we have seen the same problem. Saquon Barkley getting hit behind the line of scrimmage at an alarming rate compared to what he was hit at last year. That's astonishing. Then you also look at the fact that he broke off the 48-yard run today. That was after, again, he was contacted in the backfield. The offensive line, I don't know if they're late to their spots. I don't know if they don't know their assignments, but this is well below the standard set by a Jeff Stoutland offensive line. And if you're thinking it's going to get corrected, then you're looking at Lane Johnson like he can come in here and be a savior. They had similar problems with Lane Johnson. I'm still excited to get Lane Johnson back eventually, but then you're also talking about who else is going to come here and help. Brett Toth going to come in here and help? Is Drew Kendall all of a sudden going to figure it out, their rookie guard really, and figure it out? I don't see that happening either. It's going to come down to these guys doing their assignments, and all of a sudden Jordan Mailata maybe playing anything close to the level that he was at last year. Bailey, what else do you have?
Well, last week gave the feeling that this team was moving in the right direction. Even in a win tonight, though, there were still some moments that were questionable. Do you still see that growth overall from last week?
When you factor in the mistakes of today and still coming up with a double-digit road division win, you do feel a little bit better that they kept it going in the right direction, but I'm not at the point set that I wanted to be at after the Raiders game and hope to be at after this game.
Well, I mean, I think we all went into this game hoping that it would look like last week. It looked anything but like that. But the one thing I'll give this team credit for is that both offensively and defensively, they know how to make plays in crucial junctions of the game to figure out how to win games. You know, they have won every way. They've won throwing the ball. They've run running the ball. They've won with special teams. They've won in every way imaginable. So when you think about that, a team always has a chance if they know how to win in multiple ways. The teams that get in trouble if we're a passing team and we can't pass on a specific day, well, guess what? You know, we're going to lose that game. If we're a running team and we can't get the run game going, guess what? We're probably going to lose the game. But this team, because I saw someone in the comments say, you know, we still don't know what the Eagles' identity is, because I believe that the Eagles' identity is going to shift from week to week to week. Jaylen Herz, again, threw the ball 30-plus times. Even after the 40 passes against the Chargers, then he comes back with 15, and then all of a sudden he's back up to 30 today. So we're just not going to know what the identity of this team is going to be, because it requires them, because they're not dominant in one phase or the other. They're going to have to adjust from week to week to week, depending on who their opponent is, okay, and what the opponent weakness is, and what it calls for as you adjust and change in game. If the running game's not going, well, guess what? You're going to see a little more passing. If the running game's clicking, guess what? You're going to see a lot less run. But on the defensive side of the ball, listen, I'm worried. I'm worried because on the defensive side of the ball, I can't understate how important Nakobe Dean is. I don't know how bad this injury is, how long he could potentially be out. But guess what? The Buffalo Bills run the football with the running back James Cook and with the quarterback. And Nakobe Dean is a big reason why they've been able to control the run game the last couple of weeks. So I'm worried about this game from that perspective. But defensively, you have to be happy with what you see. This defense is playing lights out football right now, and they didn't even get the pass rush that they've gotten the last 2 weeks.
And this is also without Jalen Carter playing again.
Yes.
Not playing again
yes.
this week. Bailey Livesey, thank you so much. Appreciate the questions. We're actually going to check back with Bailey a little bit later in the program as well. Bailey, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we look to hear from Nick Serriani as well as Jaylen Herz coming up. We'll break it down even further, including our drive of the game. Talk about that and more when we return on the Verizon postgame show.
Picture this. You play big-time college football, you get some NIL money. You get drafted in the NFL, and you start making real big money. However, you're 23 years old and you don't have any credit. Here at Mid-Penn Bank, we're helping these athletes establish credit through secured credit cards and other strategies that can help develop their credit now, so as they continue to make money, they can have long-term success financially.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Recovery Unplugged. Before we go any further on this 29-18 Eagles victory over the Washington Commanders, clinching back-to-back NFC East Division titles, let's talk about our drive of the game that really changed everything in the favor of the Eagles today, and that had to do with their epic drive. 17 plays, 83 yards, lasted 10 minutes and 35 seconds. Capped off with, how about this, Seth? A 3rd and 15, 3rd and goal from the 15-yard line. Jaylen Herz just able to get a throw off before it was tipped behind him and off the to the fingertips of Dallas Goedert for that touchdown reception and put the Eagles up 14-10. They never looked back after that.
It was a heck of a drive. I mean, the Eagles did everything they could with the penalties to thwart the drive. But, man, what a throw and what a catch from Jaylen. It was a little wobbly, but he got it where it needed to be. And, you know, your big 6'5" tight end, you know, climbed the ladder and went up and got it. I thought that was such a key drive because I think that was the drive, and that was the scoring drive, I should say, that really put the nail in the coffin for Washington.
And one more thing on that one, the 4th and 7 the Eagles faced on that drive, they were able to get the penalty on Will Harris, I believe it was, on the illegal contact on Dallas Goedert, I think it was, trying to go upfield. They get renewed life, the Eagles do, and they don't miss the opportunity there for themselves. That's what you want to see from this Eagles team. One more player to flip it on the defensive side of the football right now, because we were just talking about the identity of this team. And more often than not throughout the season, really the defense, especially ever since they made the acquisition of Jaylen Phillips, they look like a team that is a very defensively driven team. Jordan Davis, we mentioned in the last segment also, Jalen Carter not playing in this game again. Jordan Davis leading the charge. Actually, the 4th best defensive tackle against the run in all of football in terms of winning battles at the line of scrimmage, winning those one-on-one battles and at times double-teamed. Came up with some big plays today, Seth.
No, he was huge in the running game. I mean, they illustrated it during the game how he was jumping gaps and getting back. 6 tackles, 4 solos, and 2 tackles for loss. They were just huge. And a lot of them came at times where the Eagles really needed to thwart the Commanders and where they were at that point in the game. I think he's played some outstanding football, over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think that, the absence of Jalen Carter has required that he step up. It's also given opportunity, to Bryant and Ojomo, giving them an opportunity to get more playing time without necessarily being through the rotation so much. I think that's going to pay dividends down the line because even when Jalen Carter comes back, you got to get back in game shape. It's one thing, that your shoulders feel better, but putting him in there playing the high number of plays and high number of reps that he normally plays from week to week and being double teamed, he's going to play a lot less until he can get his wind back and get back in playing shape.
Jordan Davis wrecking people at the line of scrimmage today. And that's what we want to see from him. And as Seth said, he's playing consistent the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think he needs to even elevate his game to another level as the season winds down. And when Jalen Carter comes back, how they complement each other, this defensive line is going to be hell to deal with for a lot of teams. But this opportunity, I think if I'm Vic Fangio, it gives me an opportunity to look at Jordan Davis and other guys in terms of creating different ways to attack a quarterback as well. We know what Jalen Carter can do, how disruptive he is when he's playing, and hopefully he can come back with both of those shoulders healthy when he gets back on the football field. But this is a prime time, especially against two weak opponents like the Raiders and Washington, for Fangio to play some games with schemes and things like that, to see how he wants to work things, especially coming up against better competition.
I tell you what, too, I said this when he came back, that we probably wouldn't see the returns on him until towards the end of the season and through the playoffs. But Brandon Graham's playing some great football right now. Some great football. I mean, and I had the conversation with him, in the offseason right after the Super Bowl. I'm like, man, listen, you can come back and play tackle. In pass rushing situations, you got a lot left in the tank. I thought he was playing his best football before he got injured last year against the Rams. But man, he is playing lights out, and they use him in a myriad of ways. They'll bring him in and put him in either tackle position in pass rushing situations when they're having problems against the run, and they go to their 5-man front with their 30 look in the middle. They take him and they move him, put him in a 5 technique. And I even saw him today line up at defensive end a play or two with his hand in the ground. But he is playing some great football, great leadership. You can see everybody, he infuses this enthusiasm with everybody on the team. With his sack in the first half, everybody's just lost it. You got everybody pulling it down. Even guys on the sideline, D-Gun, are pulling it down. So I just think that if they can get Jalen Carter back and he can be half of what he was last year, that they're going to be sitting in a really, really good position.
If I'm a 23, 24, 25-year-old defensive player and I'm watching 36-year-old, 37-year-old Brandon Graham, get off the ball the way he did and attack the way he did. Obviously, now Brandon Graham, let's face it, doesn't play as many snaps as those other guys. But still, if I'm at age and I'm thinking, man, if this guy can do it, I got to get my butt in gear, man. Because you're thinking longevity, and dependability. And Brandon Graham sets the standard in both, in terms of longevity. How rare it is for one guy to play with the same team for 16 seasons, And he's the example setter, not by what he says, but by what he does when he steps between the stripes.
Obviously got the sack tonight. He was also in the face of Josh Johnson when he threw the interception to Cooper DeJean tonight. He was the only guy getting pressure off that edge. Then you also go back to the 2 sacks that he had last week against the Raiders. The second one was the more impressive, I think, than the first one. Kenny Pickett kind of scrambled more to his side, and still a great play by Brandon Graham, but an even better play was the second sack when he got on a third-round rookie in Caleb Rogers and just kept swatting that kid's hands off of him. A 37-year-old with still the same high motor that he had at 21, 22 years old that Andy Reid talked about when they took him in the first round, still getting it done with that high motor at the age of 37. Really, I did not expect, and I don't think he has been, but I didn't expect it. I was saying I didn't expect him to be a savior for this Eagles defensive line. He hasn't been that, but he has certainly played a lot better than I would have anticipated when he came on the team.
D-Gun talks about what he does on the field, but I think, the way that he can inspire those young players by how they see him work during the week. And now the fruits of that work, 3 sacks in 2 games by the 37-plus-year-old. Come on. To your point, D-Gun, if you can't get inspired by that and that don't make you want to raise your level to, take your level to another level, I don't know what in the world, I don't know what there is that can motivate you, but he plays with a lot of energy. I believe that his leadership around the clubhouse is something that they really needed. I think they thought that they could get that. What's the guy that they signed that retired earlier this year? Zadarius Smith. I think they thought that they could get that through him. That didn't work out. BG comes back in, gives them the leadership that they need, and also teaching these other young guys how to lead and what they need to do and how to be a professional whenever it is that he decides to step away. It's important.
What is it that Vic Fangio has done specifically with this defense that has impressed you this year? Because we're talking about some massive turnover from last year to this year. And still, this defense is really starting to find its way. Now, I know it's the Raiders, it's the Commanders, and it was a smattering of Josh Johnson again tonight. But what has Vic Fangio done throughout this season that's impressed you?
I think that Vic Fangio is one of the great minds, left in the National Football League from a defensive perspective. I saw him do some things in the first half. Do you remember me telling you, man, that I'm like, man, that dude is something else. And his ability to evaluate players' skill sets and then use them in ways that are unconventional. Like most guys that are edge rushers don't like to drop into coverage. It's one of the things that I believe that got Hassan Reddick out of here. But when you look at a guy like Jaylen Herz, who has some safety in his history, that's willing to screw with offenses where they expect for him to rush and he drops into coverage, and not only is he dropping in coverage, but he's out there making tackles on guys that are catching the ball. How do you know that he has that skill set other than the fact that you've evaluated him in practice, looked at his ability to move, looked at his ability to change directions and said, hey, you know, when we want to mix things up, we can get in a 5-man front and make it look like we're bringing 5, but then we can drop him off in coverage and take away a zone where the quarterback wasn't even expecting for it to happen. Some of the blitzes, you know, that he runs. Even the coverages. I mean, there was one play where Cooper DeJean was covering the tight end across the middle, and everybody else jumped, you know, was playing zone, dropped in zone. I'm like, so you mean to tell me that you played a boxing one in football where you decided, okay, I'm gonna take the tight end away. Now the tight end caught the ball, but it was like a 3-yard gain. But Cooper was right there on the guy, completes it, and everybody else is dropped off in zone. So he's doing some unconventional things that other defensive coordinators don't do. He knows how to evaluate talent. He knows how to put players in position, and he knows when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive. I just think that he is something special, and the Eagles ought to be thanking the lucky stars that they got him.
The Eagles just released some numbers to go back to Brandon Graham here for a second. So getting this from the Eagles, Brandon Graham's sack of Marcus Mariota in this game of the 3rd and 9, that sack marked Brandon Graham's 3rd sack in 9 defensive snaps. Graham is the first player to record sacks in back-to-back games at age 37 or older since Calais Campbell did it with Miami last season in weeks 10 and 11. Calais Campbell, some decent company to be in there for Brandon Graham.
Yeah, they can't block him at guard because, you know, he's powerful enough to bull rush, but he's quick enough to get on the edge. And when they don't know what he's doing, he bull rushes them. And when they try to jump set him, he gets on the edge and he's around them like that.
You know, he has such a defined low center of gravity. You know, he's only 6'2", about 255.
He's powerful, though.
He is a powerful lower center of gravity. It's like watching Saquon run the football. It's like watching Jaylen Herz run those tush pushes. Their lower center of gravity is unbelievable. And plus his burst off the snap as well. And when you play what he plays, 15, 20 snaps a game, you never get tired. You know what I mean? You always have that. You always have that second Energizer Bunny battery within you, ready to go, man. And that's going to be vital when they get to the second half of the season.
I tell you, you know, from afar, I've always looked at BG and I'm like, man, he has one small defense.
Yeah.
And then when I finally got a chance to meet him and I saw him again, and he dapped me up and we gave each other a hug, I was like, man, he is dense, just thick, just all muscle. You know, he's a handful, man. He is a handful. And I'm telling you, the way he's playing, he could come back for 17, D-Gun.
I agree.
Now, I don't know if that's really what he wants to do.
I agree.
And I don't know what the conversation was like that, you know, inspired him to step away, you know, after the Super Bowl last year. But the level that he's playing at and how they can utilize him, if they only want to give him 20, 25 plays a game, he can continue to play as long as he wants to.
If he gets out of here unscathed this year in terms of injuries, I can't see why not. He's having fun again. You know, he wanted to, you know, you win a Super Bowl at that stage of your career. He wanted to ride off into the sunset like Brent Selleck did on top of your game. You know, my last game as a professional athlete was getting a ring, you know. And he dabbled in the media. You know, he was doing some stuff locally, doing some stuff nationally. And he even turned the Eagles down the first time they offered it to him in training camp. You know, he was content with what he was doing. But all of a sudden, that competitive itch kicked in, you know.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, too, though. There's nothing that takes your legacy to another level than walking away with 3.
Oh, there's no question. Oh, there's no question about it. And when you look at how balanced the NFC is, how balanced the NFL is, there's no definitive front runner to win the Super Bowl this season.
By the way, decked out on some new drip right here. Nick Serriani addressing the media.
He said new drip.
Damn right I did.
Yeah, it's always good when the guys experience that. You know, the guys that haven't won one experience it for the first time. That's always a gratifying thing. but excitement. It's hard. It's hard to do this. Obviously, in this division, we've seen, the data says, it's hard to repeat as winners in this division. We're happy about that. We'll celebrate it. We've got a lot to clean up, and then, we got a lot more goals on our mind.
Your thoughts on Saquon's performance, a lot of yards after the catch. Jordan called that 12-yard run an angry run by him. Like, what'd you see?
Yeah, man, he's awesome. Just everything he brings to this football team is awesome. Obviously, first and foremost, super talented guy, but great leader, great player to have in the locker room, helping lead the guys. And you always, guys get fired up when he has those runs. He brings a lot of energy and a lot of excitement to everybody every time, and he's dangerous to get in the open field and make big plays at all times. So awesome that he's on our football team.
I know your goal is always as much, but you guys got late in this game. Do you see positives the last 3 weeks, I'd say, in the run game that have lead you to believe that you guys are moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I think so. Just it's been, guys have done a great job executing, and at all levels, right? It takes everybody in the run game. It takes everybody in all phases in this awesome sport. But O-line blocking well, Saquon running well, Jaylen faking well, and being a threat to carry it as well. Tank coming in, giving good carries to receivers. Smitty had a really big block on the perimeter. On Saquon's long run. Receivers, tight ends, Kevin's doing a good job calling it and putting the guys in position. So, I think there's a lot to be encouraged on. We got to build on it.
If you think 5 years you're thinking running the offense, and you, Kevin, now that it seems like the push isn't the automatic play.
Teams adjust. We got to continue to adjust. I think, credit to them. They did a really good job of stopping us there. And then also, they got us to jump off sides and put us back. What I was really encouraged by, obviously you don't want penalties, especially pre-snap penalties. And we have to clean those up, and we have to get this play working the way it's been in the past, which we'll work our butts off to do so. But we really were able to overcome. Jaylen throws the Smitty touchdown, after the first one, and then we get a hold after the other one where Jahan gets the touchdown, and then we complete it to Dallas, kind of a broken play. So we were able to overcome, and that's what this game's about. There's ups and downs throughout this game, and there was ups and downs through this game, and we were able to overcome, and hats off to our guys.
If you think big picture, 5 years here, if you think 5 years here, playoff bids for 10-win seasons, 3 division crowns. What perspective do you have on the run that you guys are on, big picture?
Yeah, obviously, everyone's vying to get into the playoffs to be able to go, do what the ultimate goal is. And so we're excited to be there. And I think, it is, this division's had so much parity in it throughout the years to be able to be a back-to-back winner and get ourselves into the playoffs. And, obviously our goals are much higher. I think that we've raised the expectations of what, we expect. And, so we're pumped. We're pumped to get in, but we got more work to do, we'll go back to work. We'll celebrate this tonight. Players will be off tomorrow. Coaches will be in, and we'll get back to work and try to improve from this game.
Early on, it was empty sets and some tempo that got you going. What's it when you can do both in a game? How much more effective does that make?
Yeah, I think that when you're balanced and you can do both. They were doing some things there that that they were playing some of their base personnel versus our sub personnel, so we spread them out, and Kevin did a really good job of calling that, and Jaylen did a great job in the receivers and the protection and everything that goes along with it of moving the ball down the field. And so, there's multiple ways to do it, right? You can scare a team out of doing that. Now they kept going back to it, but really good job by our guys to, and that's sometimes what it is. You take what the defense gives you. That doesn't mean you don't run it against their base personnel, because you can do that as well. But that was working at that time, and we were able to move the ball down the field.
Nick, what is your confidence level as the struggles continue, and how does that affect your decision making in the fourth down situation?
I have the utmost confidence in Jake.
There in Landover, Maryland. And how about this? Also from the Eagles, Nick Serriani, the only coach to go 5 for 5 in your first 5 seasons, making the playoffs, winning 3 division championships, and a Super Bowl. Not a bad start to his career. We look forward to hearing from Jaylen Herz and also Bailey Livesey. When we return, this right here is the Verizon postgame show.
There's a number on the screen.
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 There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Business owners love the path of least resistance. So when it comes to their banking, that's where we want to help them. Whether they're working on their consumer lending, their wealth, their commercial lending, their insurance, our focus is to help plan holistically to ensure financial success both in the business and the owner's personal lives. So reach out to one of our professionals today.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
This holiday, Verizon's got the craziest deal ever with iPhone 17, iPad, and Apple Watch. All on them. But no getting it if you're naughty. You just ate. Don't worry, we know what list you're on. I'm always watching. Always watching. Not always. Boundaries.
Get the powerful new iPhone 17, iPad, and Apple Watch all for $0. No trade-in needed on any plan.
Upcoming segment is brought to you by Weber Display and Packaging. Before we hear from Jaylen Herz, let's hear from Bailey Livesey, who's been monitoring the chat and, again, all social media. Bailey, we're going to go back to you. What are the people talking about now?
Well, while I was gone, I was checking in on the chat, and it seems like there's a lot of people that were shocked that we won tonight, and others not so much. Where exactly did you see this Eagles team settle in order to get this W?
I feel like it's our turn to go. You know they won the game, right, guys?
I know.
That's what I feel like. Come on, chat. They won the game. They're back-to-back division title winners, guys.
Hey, a win is a win.
A win is a win. What are we even talking about here? No, in all seriousness, we love you all. But that's very interesting. That's a very interesting. There's my opening question as we started the show. I was looking at a game like this and saying, hey, you know what? Make us feel even better about where this team is. 31-0 win over the Raiders. Some people, big deal, it's the Raiders. Well, I'm sorry, the 72 Dolphins weren't available last week, okay? So they had to play the Raiders, also the team that was ahead of them on the schedule. So now you look at this game against the Commanders, and you factor in a lot of things. First, you could factor in certainly the negative side of things, which was 3 missed field goals. Also the fact that you had to face Josh Johnson. I can't say that enough in this game. But the things that they did struggle with, they overcame. The things that you needed them to do in this game to make sure they did get the win and not have it slip away. True, a lot of the same stuff that you could say after the Raiders game, you could say again right now. It was only the Commanders. Bottom line is they had an assignment. They went out there and they did it. Jaylen Herz, again, maybe not the greatest game under the sun, but still a very solid game for him when you talk about 20 for 26. You also talk about 2 touchdown passes in this game. You also talk about 7 runs for 40 yards, similar to what he had last week. I believe it was 7 runs for 39 yards against the Raiders. I'm not doing cartwheels over this particular victory. Love the fact they locked up the division. Love the fact that they bounced the Dallas Cowboys out of playoff contention. And, yeah, maybe Nakobe Dean comes back healthy next week and you feel better about him taking on James Cook for the Bills like we talked about earlier. But it could certainly be worse than a back-to-back division winner, 2 wins in a row, going into Buffalo to take on the Bills.
Hey, look, Kansas City Chiefs are going home, okay? Cincinnati Bengals are going home. Tennessee Titans are terrible. We're blessed and fortunate to have a team that's relevant, every year under the tenure of Nick Sirianni. people keep saying you guys are never satisfied with anything, and I will tell you, professional athletes are never satisfied as well. They know that even though they win, there are things to work on, and they say that constantly. Hey, we got the win, but we've got a lot to work on yet. So we can't just sit here for 90 minutes and just applaud what they do. I mean, they're division winners, back-to-back, first time since 2004. Now they're still playing for something significant, all important, especially after Seattle knocked off the Rams Thursday night, and arguably to me is the best game of the season. So that brings the playing field back closer together. They've already beaten the Rams. They've already beaten Green Bay, okay? Did we think a couple of weeks ago we would be talking about this team still possibly playing for the number 1 seed? Okay?
No.
You get home field advantage. That means you get to play 2 games instead of 3 games, okay? So, and they got to come to your backyard. So, I think it's great that what they're doing is they're not playing perfect ball. They're playing ball good enough to get what they need to get at the end of a 60-minute football game.
Listen, my football mind tells me that, the best they're going to be able to get to is maybe the 2 seed. I don't see them climbing as high as the 1 seed. It's on the table. But listen, there's this element that the man upstairs puts in all of us. This called, desire. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to our sporting teams, not only do we desire for them to win, but we desire for them to win in a certain fashion. I'll finish my thought after Jaylen gets done here.
Jaylen is taking to the podium right now. We'll hear from Jaylen Herz after the victory.
Pointing the ball in the end zone, which very much need to play in the game.
What's your perspective on a second straight division title? Does that mean something to you?
It was the first time for everything, so I'm just happy we're able to check that off the box.
Some of your teammates who haven't won it, you take some joy in that to see them do it for the first time?
Absolutely. There's always joy found in winning collectively, truly embracing that. And when guys put the team first, that's when things are truly fun. And you think about all the guys that are onboarded and come into the team. Every team changes every year, and not everyone experiences the same things because they're not here. It always changes. My point is, as a leader and as a quarterback, you want everybody to experience that level of winning. And so this is a first step for us.
Where are you guys at now with the sneak? I mean, for those of us who watch here, it's still striking to see that play not work every single time. Kind of where are you guys with the operation of it and where it is?
I think we're in a good place.
What stood out about Saquon's performance to you today?
It was good. Good to see him going out there, earning those yards like he did, running very physical. Ran very hard today. He played a hell of a game.
When he has those type of angry runs, does it energize the team?
I think it always has a component to energize the team, but I think it energizes him. So that's most important.
What did you make of the pace of the offense, particularly front of the games and committed to that tempo?
That was a phase in the game where we decided to play that way. Yeah, I'm indifferent on it. Like points.
In 5 years here, starting all 5 years, 5 postseason bids, 4 double-digit win seasons. What perspective do you have on the run that you guys are on?
I've said it multiple times. These times, they're rare times. So it's something that we all need to soak in and relish in this moment right now and take it a day at a time as we always have. But keep the main thing the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. That's what we've done for 5 years since everybody's collectively been here. It's been my approach since I've been an Eagle. And I think as a team, just the caliber of guys that we've been able to get with the mentality that, where they come from and their backgrounds. And defensively, the vibe that they have and that continuity that they have, and everything kind of coming together. We just want to continue to improve.
We've talked a lot this year about if the running game gets going, it will open up the passing game. Can you see that manifesting itself right now where it is going and lanes for the passing lanes are becoming?
Yeah, I think it's more so the notion of just playing complementary football, being able to complement things, have plays on plays, set up things, and that's something that is always an ongoing process to try and improve on.
When you guys go empty, is that something that you like doing? Is that more this is what the defense is giving?
I definitely don't mind empty. I definitely don't mind empty. It's more so kind of I think there are things where I can go out there and I can just see what's going on. I can go play, and then there are times where KP or Nick may be seeing something and they maybe want to stay in the mode. Ultimately, just trying to progress the ball. I think you got to make people stop certain things, and when you have that approach, you remain an aggressor. So you're kind of able to play on your terms. But I think just to be able to move the ball as we did, we've been able to do that the last couple of weeks. I say last few weeks in some regard, just a matter of finishing when we need to finish.
You've talked about the desire to have
I think I actually heard Jaylen Herz say he was enjoying something. I think, which you don't really hear too many times from him. Yeah. But in all seriousness, he was talking about the guys that hadn't done it before, the guys that weren't on the team last year, the younger guys on this team getting a chance to win. Support. Exactly what you want to hear from your quarterback. Also, as per usual, and it really does go into what we were saying before we went to the press conference there, the main thing.
That's all I wanted to hear.
But
that's all I needed.
I know some people talk about it like it's a joke. That is literally the most important thing you could do, is keep the main thing. It's not about how many passing yards he has, how many passing touchdowns, or if he's running too much or anything. The main thing is the main thing, and the main thing is winning a Super Bowl. And that's something that is always the constant there with Jaylen Herz. Bailey, I know you have one more left for us. Let's get it when we come back here. We'll also give some more thoughts on that Jaylen Herz press conference as well. All that and more when we return. This right here is the Verizon postgame show.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This upcoming segment brought to you by Mid-Penn Bank. Your Philadelphia Eagles winning 29-18 over the Washington Commanders tonight locks up back-to-back division titles, first back-to-back division titles in the NFC East in 21 years since the Eagles did it, along with some help with that Donovan guy and Terrell Owens. They were pretty good at football back in the day. Let's hear from Bailey Livesey once more as to what's going on social media right now regarding this game. Bailey.
Many people are talking about the Bills game, and playing the Bills at their stadium is going to be a different type of challenge. What has to travel with this team in order for them to be successful in that environment?
I think, great question. Defense, a good defense always travels plays well on the road. The Eagles have played well on the road defensively all season long. Like I said, my major concern is their ability to stop the run without Nakobe Dean in the lineup, depending on how severe this hamstring injury really is. And then obviously when you're on the road, turnovers are a big deal. Jaylen, for the most part, has been phenomenal at protecting the ball. He had the one odd game, the anomaly, I'd like to call it, against the Chargers a few weeks back. But I think that if the defense can get in there and hold that offense down, they can control James Cook. That's going to be the key. Because if you can control him, that gives you a better chance of being able to control Josh Allen. They don't have a whole lot of weapons on that offense. They got a couple of tight ends that are going to give the Eagles some problems. Cooper DeJean on one, and in certain situations you may even put Quinyon Mitchell on the other because they run, a lot of 12, a lot of 13 personnel. That's, 2 tight ends, 1 back, 3 tight ends, 1 back scenarios, and they try to get you on play action pass. So the biggest thing is they've got to figure out how to how to get that run game under control where play action doesn't become a big thing of what they do. And then the Bills' defense really isn't all that great. I think if the Eagles can just play, a solid game offensively and don't turn the ball over, because that's what they thrive on. They are a team defensively that thrives on turning the ball over, especially at home. So the Eagles are going to have to figure out a way to protect the ball, make sure you don't turn it over and give the Buffalo Bills any further possessions than they would normally get, D-Gon.
Buffalo's #1 rushing offense in the National Football League. And their quarterback, he doesn't run just to avoid tackles by the time. He runs with authority,
Mm-hmm.
And when you have James Cook running the way he's running the football, and you play in that environment, for those of us who have had the privilege of traveling to a lot of stadiums, Buffalo is one of those stadiums. It's one of the most difficult stadiums to play in the National Football League. This Eagles defense is going to have to bow up because Buffalo's coming off a high of getting their revenge back against New England. So now they're only 1 game behind New England for first place, and a better seeding. Right now, Buffalo's the #6 seed in the AFC compared to possibly being a #3 seed. So they have a lot to play for as well. That game's going to be on national TV. It's going to be cold, down and dirty. This Eagles defense is going to have to roll up its sleeves as it's been doing, and they're going to have to go in there and dig deep in the trenches because it's going to be that type of football game on the road. And right now, thank God I'm not a betting man because I wouldn't know who to pick in this game.
Mm-hmm. Question.
Yeah.
With the Eagles seemingly locked at the 1 or 2 seed, is this a game, if it gets to a point, at some point, that the Eagles maybe back out and pull their starters in this game? Or is this a game that they play full force, full speed ahead?
You mean depending on how much they're up by or how much they could be behind by?
Just in general.
Either or?
Because, traditionally this is a team that errs on the side of caution.
Right, right.
And they probably can't do any better than the 3 seed. If all these teams play the way that they're supposed to play, the teams that are leading the 1 and the 2.
Mm-hmm.
And even, with the Rams loss the other night, you bring San Francisco into the mix for the #1 seed when Seattle has to play San Francisco, I believe, in week 18. There's a very good chance that the Eagles may be locked at #3 by the time this weekend is over. So do you go into next week with the mindset where we can't improve, our seeding? Do we just go out, and play our backups?
You got to play your guys because that would be almost 2+ games where your regulars wouldn't play because nobody's going to play in that Washington game, the last game of the regular season. You can't have your frontline players sit idle for that long. I mean, you know that. Because if you've got to play 3 playoff games, you've got to be pinpoint sharp because if you're facing an opponent that had to fight tooth and nail that last week of the season to get into the playoffs or to get a higher seed in the playoffs, they're going to come in here on a roll, whereas your guys have been stagnant for almost 2 weeks. So I feel what you're saying, but I think you have to play your guys in that Buffalo game.
I'm not saying sit them.
Right.
I've never been that way. I want my guys. I want the Eagles to play their starters in the preseason. But I know what their MO is. Their MO is always to to err on the side of caution, especially with all the injuries that they've endured that were uncharacteristic in comparison to last year.
Yeah, logistically speaking, answering your question, no. Because you're not going to know what other implications are, because you have Chicago and San Francisco playing at night next week, so they're going to be playing after your game. There's really no hugely impactful game other than that. Even on Christmas Day, those are all games that don't really matter to you at this point. The Saturday games don't really matter to you other than Green Bay hosting the Ravens. We all know how that season has gone for the Ravens and how it might be going right now for the Packers, as a matter of fact. Bears are at the 49ers after you play the Bills. Maybe you would have a little bit of a decision to make if that was reversed, but you certainly don't have that this time around. I want to ask you guys one more question about that game. But first, Bailey, thank you so much for monitoring the chat and social media throughout the broadcast. We appreciate that greatly. We'll check back with you next week.
Of course, thank you.
Bailey Livesey, of course, right there. Gentlemen, here's what it comes down to with the Bears. Not just about playing starters, but what it could come down to for Lane Johnson, what it could come down to for Jalen Carter. Here is something I did not expect to say a couple of weeks ago. I never thought this was going to be 2023. I never thought the Eagles were going to lose the division. I never thought the Eagles were certainly ever going to miss the playoffs. Let me just get that out of the way. But I did not expect to say this Bills-Eagles matchup could be a Super Bowl preview. You could. You don't have Joe Burrow to go through. You certainly don't have Patrick Mahomes to go through. You know, the guys that Josh Allen has to look under his bed for. Do you play Jalen Carter? Do you play Lane Johnson in this game against the Bills if they are healthy and available? That, I think, is a bigger question going into it.
That's a tough one because when you have the type of foot injury that Lane has, even when he's medically cleared, you step the wrong way, somebody step on that foot, you twist, then all of a sudden you're back to square one. He could be out a month, and it might be too late then. Same thing with Jalen. The shoulder situation is a very tricky situation with him. You know, the bigger picture is you want him there for that second season. So, you know, it's like they damned if you do, damned if you don't. But if they're medically cleared, players want to play. If they're medically cleared, they want to get out on the field. But I think this is going to have to be a collaboration in terms of the player, the coaches, and the medical staff in terms of what's best for the individual with 2 games left in the regular season, knowing that we're heading to the postseason.
I'm with you, by the way. Seth, where are you at on that?
I'm a player, man. So
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let's bring Bailey back.
I'm always going to err on the side of playing because that's what players do. You've got a minimum amount of games every single year. And guess what? Somebody could step on that foot in the first play of the playoff game. And guess what? You could have the same issue. You could have the same injury to Jalen Carter's shoulder in the first quarter or the second quarter of the playoff game. So you can't go through life and you can't play this game from a scared perspective, in my opinion. I would play him. That's just, you know, that's just, you know, where I sit on it. I want to go back and finish the thought before, you know, we went to Jalen.
Oh, yeah.
So I talked about desire. You know, the man upstairs puts desire in all of us, and we as fans, or, you know, the Eagles fan base desires for the Eagles to play well. They want them to win, but there's a certain level that we desire for them to play at. And they've surely given us, you know, a lot of exciting wins this year, and they've given us some head-scratching losses. The team is 10-5. We enjoy the position that they're in. We should be happy with where they sit, you know, with some of the trials and tribulations that they've been through. But I just feel like, you know, at the end of the day, there's this level of perfection that we all are aiming for, that we want from this team. Even when they win to a certain extent, it's not good enough. It's good enough for those who say, oh, well, you know, a win is a win. It's good enough for those diehard fanboys and fangirls that are out there that says, you know, win by any means necessary. That's all that matters. No, the game is not that simplistic, because a lot of times what you show and how you win is as important as if you win, because it's a preview. It's a precursor to what's down the road, because you're not going to all of a sudden play lights out football out of the blue if you haven't already played lights out football at some point during the season. Now, that's not to say that the Eagles are going to flame out in the first round of the playoffs. That's not my point at all. But my point is that, you know, even as we break down this team, even as we analyze this team, sometimes you got to talk about those uncomfortable things, because it's the reality of where this team is. This team today is not as dominant a football team as they were last year this time. We expected this team that ran 16 of the last 17 games of the season to go into the playoffs and to succeed in the playoffs and probably go to the Super Bowl and compete for a Super Bowl. Right now, you're going to tell me as a fan that you believed and you feel that same way? I'm hopeful, you know, that this is that's how it ends again, and that we got another parade coming down Broad Street. Okay, I think we're all hopeful for that. But the reality is, we have to look at this team and how they're constructed and how they consistently play week after week after week after week. Okay, and we have to draw some conclusions based upon that. Even though our desire is for our team to win the Super Bowl again, we have to be factual, we have to be truthful, and we got to talk about these small details, you know, that has plagued this team all year long, while we hope that they get way over the hump and achieve the ultimate goal once again.
Here, here. Let me ask you guys this. Gunnar, I'll ask you first. Your major takeaways from this win against the Commanders, this game tonight, what are your takeaways?
They racked up the yards rushing. Saquon busted 1,000-yard mark, busted the 100-yard mark for the third time this season. Defense is playing great football right now, and as was the case in the first half of the season, this team right now still leans on the defense to get things done. So one half of this team is set, or should I say 1/3 of the team is set to defense. There's still some elements that need to be worked on, special teams and offense. But the bottom line is they're 10 up, they're 5 down, they're champs of the NFC East.
Seth, what do you
Listen,
take away
I'll
from
say
this?
this. You know, the defense played well. You know, realistically, they held this Commanders team to 10 points. What more can you ask for? But I'm not going to minimize, you know, what the defense was able to put out there, okay? Because you're talking about 392 yards worth of offense, 34 runs for 207 yards, and Jaylen with another efficient day passing the ball, 185 yards on 20 of 30 attempts for 111 and 2 passing touchdowns. Okay, let's not minimize that. There's a lot of teams in the National Football League that would like to line up tomorrow and be able to amass 392 yards of total offense running and passing, okay, with 0 turnovers, okay? So at the end of the day, we're thrilled about what the defense is doing. Again, the offense is just not looking the way that we would like for it to look, but they're efficient enough to win football games, and they're doing what's necessary from a statistical standpoint to win football games. And guess what? It just doesn't look pretty, but it's effective.
That's right.
And I think that speaks volumes. That speaks to our quarterback. It doesn't always look good. It doesn't always look efficient. But guess what? It's pretty damn effective.
Well, I'll say this. You look at the second half of this game, that was a lot more of the offense that we wanted to see.
Yep.
Now, again, you take everything in consideration when you talk about the Commanders and all that. This is a team that had a very experienced defense, and in the first half, you were unable to really spread the football around. You had to overcome turnovers. You had to overcome missed field goals, obviously. And they did just that. They made the proper adjustments. Dallas Goedert started to get involved in that game plan again, and Saquon Barkley went to that next level. We've talked about it a bunch throughout this postgame show. Saquon Barkley being hit behind the line of scrimmage. We just looked at the highlight, actually, at the last break. 3 guys he breaks the tackle from, spins around another one, gets that touchdown that he had. The 48-yard run that he had there late in the game, another big play by him. Contact in the backfield, still finds a way to not just get a gain out of it, but 48 yards for crying out loud. That's the offense, and that's the energy, and that's also the scheme the Eagles are going to have to use going up against the Buffalo Bills next week for a nationally televised game at Orchard Park. We thank you guys for watching the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel, the Verizon Postgame Show, both on YouTube and 6abc.com. We want to thank our friends at White Dog Cafe for feeding us during the game. Fantastic as per usual. Everyone here at Creative Outfit as well. For Bailey Livesey, Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner, I'm Mark Farzetta. We'll be back with you guys next week, hopefully talking about another victory. See you guys then.
Go Birds.